As someone who sews, most everything that I do end up using my sewing skills on are something I made completely from scratch. But every now and then, we come across things that we really like that are ready made, or you find in the thrift store, or it's something that you've owned forever and it could use just a couple of tweaks to make it what you want. So today we are going to be tailoring this t-shirt. If you are interested in finding out the tips and the tweaks that I like to make on my t-shirts to make them just how I want them to fit, then this is going to be the video for you. Hello, welcome to Show and Tell Meg. I'm Megan, and I like to make things. But sometimes we have to just alter things that are already made. I have this very adorable Pemberley t-shirt that I purchased from outofprint.com in their Black Friday sale. And I got a couple of shirts because they were like buy one, get one free, and I really like the fit of the other shirts. And this was supposed to be the same size, the same type of material, and yet it came out very different than the other two shirts that I got. And while this fit for a lot of people, it's fine, it's a perfectly adequate t-shirt, it's just not a style of t-shirt that if I had gone somewhere and tried it on that I would have bought. But that's where sewing comes in handy. So I'm going to show you the things that I would like to change about this t-shirt to make it more my style. And these are not difficult tweaks. These are all alterations, tips that I picked up in a class that I took on Craftsy actually. But they can be applied to anything. They can be applied to things you've made from scratch that need a little bit of a change, as well as something like this. So what are the tweaks I want to make, you may ask? Well, I feel like I'm wearing just a big tee, which, okay, it's a t-shirt, I get that. But I hate where these shoulders hit. I am not a drop shoulder gal. I know that that is the style now, but I want things to be at my shoulder, or at least relatively close. And this is several inches. Like my shoulder seam line should be right here. And we're talking 3 inches down, just not for me. So I'm not necessarily making this completely nip in like a set-in sleeve shirt. This is designed to be a drop sleeve shirt, but I am going to pull it in a little from where it is. I like the looseness, but I want it to just kind of come straight up from here, if that makes sense. So if I was to lay this down, it would look straight, but that doesn't mean that that's where it's sitting straight on my body. So I'm going to pin along the line where I need this to go. Now this is going to mean that I will probably have to alter the shape of the sleeve. And frankly, I'm not really too worried about that because the sleeves are kind of long as well. I don't necessarily need them to be tighter, but that may end up being a byproduct of what we're going to do. So once I get it apart, I'm going to kind of play around with it and see how far I have to go. It may mean that I have to take out a sleeve pattern piece and make it the right curve, but we're gonna see about that when we get to it. The other thing that I want to change is the length. And this, again, it's fine as a t-shirt, but this is going like past the widest part of my hips, like way far down. It feels like a men's t-shirt when this was supposed to be like a unisex. I don't know. I don't buy a lot of clothes, so a lot of the time it's hard for me to gauge. I go by the bust measurement. But again, the other shirts that I got from them fit me fine. So I don't understand what this discrepancy was, but at least it's something I can easily fix. So at the moment, this shirt is very long. I like my shirts to end up somewhere right about here. It could be a little bit longer than what I just folded it, because I'm doing this completely by a mirror that is over my camera, so I can't really see right now. I'm going to go stand in front of a mirror and actually pin myself for the length that I officially want, but this is pretty close. This is kind of at my high hip line, and I find that that's a more flattering place for shirts to end on me. But it's still not so short that if I raise my arms, it's going to show anything. So I think that right here in this vicinity is going to be pretty good length. So hopefully by the end of this video, you'll see that this is pretty simple to tweak, and I hope that I'm not cursing myself by saying that now. So let me go change my shirt so that we can make these alterations. So case in point would be this shirt. This is a shirt I bought at the exact same time from the same company in the same size and the same material. And look at the difference in this size. So now that I have this shirt on, I have to say, I am going to take the sleeves in a bit. And yeah, I mean, this one still has a drop shoulder, but because of how the rest of this fits, it's not as much of an issue. So I've taken off that other shirt. I did pin it in the places that I wanted to hit before I did it. So this shirt is longer too, but something about the fit of it, I don't mind kind of scrunching it up instead of actually shortening it. So for the moment, this one can live like it is. Now that I have this on, I can definitely see that I want the sleeves to be a little bit more snug because I like how this fits. I think it looks a little more polished. But as you can see, the shoulder distance here, it makes a big difference. Like, this is not quite as far of a drop. It is a drop, but it's not 3 inches like the other one. This one's like 1.5 inches. So I'm going to pull the other one up, and in experimenting before I took off that other shirt, I just pinched out a lot of material all the way around right here. So I'm going to try not shaping this sleeve. I'm going to see what it looks like if I just move the sleeve up. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Okay, so first things first, we are going to have to cut the sleeves off. And I know that this is always the scariest part because it feels like the point of no return. But I'm confident that it's going to fit better no matter what. So I'm not as worried as I have been in the past because I have had this since November and I have not worn it because it just drives me crazy. So in order to do this, all I'm going to do is cut this right next to the seam on the sleeve. All right, no going back now. I made the first snip. And I am cutting it on the body of the shirt simply because I know that's the part that I want to be narrower. The sleeve is okay in the length it is, but I wouldn't mind it if it's a little shorter. So just for keeping things simple, I'm cutting it off of the body. All right, we have one sleeve free and the seam allowance is still attached to it. And now that I have this apart, I can see that this is actually a woven in this size shirt. There is no side seam. So I'm glad that I did it the way that I did. Sleeves are officially cut off. So now I look like a muscle man t-shirt. That's okay, because we know it's not going to stay that way. I did put a pin at my shoulder. And even with this cut off already, so the seam allowance isn't taken into account here, that's a solid 3 inches that this was too far. So since I did chop it, I do need to mark where the center is of this. So I'm going to put a little notch. And now since I don't have a seam line, I'm also going to make sure that I notch the center of the shirt itself, just so that I know where the center of the sleeve should hit. Okay, so I've made a notch and pinned my sleeve essentially back to where I cut it off from down here. And then I'm going to have this inside out. And I'm going to put the top of my sleeve where I have that pin that I marked for where my shoulder is. So this is just where I want it to end up. Just put a pin in it. And now we have to kind of ease the sleeve into the opening. The sleeve is a little bit narrower than the opening is. And so I'm just measuring down from where I cut off that 3 inches because I know that's where I want it to end up. And then I'm laying my sleeve on there, but I'm also giving the sleeve a little bit of a tug because we want the sleeve to stretch just slightly to make up the difference in that armhole as we go. And then once we get to the underarm area, since I was not wanting to take that in all that much, this is where it's going to get a little creative because it wants to bunch up a lot. I'm allowing the fabric to kind of ease itself down to this. So if you can see, I have 3 inches up here and I'm just letting this naturally angle downward how it wants to. So I'm making sure that the pin that I last put in stays in place as I give it a little bit of a tug and let the fabric lay where it wants. And don't worry, like I say, it's bunching up right now. It's not looking great. I'm going to slightly pull on the fabric while I sew it, so it's going to make up that difference. So I'm going to go and give this a try. I'm going to baste this. So I'm not doing a permanent stitch. I am just trying this out. So I'm going to do a really long stitch length, like 5, and then we're going to try it on and see how this fits. Okay, trial number 1. is not entirely successful, but not entirely failure either. So I have now discovered, because the armhole is so deep, that's throwing everything else off. So the area that I had to kind of ease back out to fit the end of the sleeve is all bunching up right here. That's not a good look. So what I need to do is, I've actually noted that basically right at the edge of the building here, I need to have my armhole close up until that point. So I'm going to add a little bit of a seam right there, and then I'm going to set the sleeve in exactly the same way, because honestly, it looks fine. I think that it actually is laying okay once it doesn't have the rest of that fabric underneath, because I haven't cut anything off. So we're looking good. We just have to make a little bit of a change. So it's a good thing I basted this. I'm going to take this out, seam that up a couple of inches, then we're going to set the sleeve in again. Okay, I kind of went ahead a bit because I wanted to see if what I was going to do was going to work. And it looks like it does. So I still have not cut the excess fabric off inside there, so it's looking a bit bulky. It's also a little bit bulky here, but it is no bulkier than any normal fitting t-shirt that I've ever bought in a store. So I don't think that it is where I need to like tweak this within an inch of its life. I did end up having to add a side seam on each end, and I think I'm going to have to take that in just a little bit more because of where this part connects. I'm going to have to take it in at that distance. Right now I think it's like an extra ½ inch on each side, but in order to smooth out this line, I'm going to have to take it in a little bit. But now that I have that good to go, this is all still just basted. I'm going to go back with my serger. Okay, the seams are serged, so now it's looking much more like a regular t-shirt and not with these ridiculously thick pieces of fabric bunching up underneath. So I had to tweak the side seams a teeny bit, but that's all done now. It's looking pretty okay. I did press a hem in there, and I went and looked in the mirror, and the hem that I pressed is good. This is 4.5 inches folded up from what it had before, which is crazy, but that's just goes to show you how long this was. And right there is where my microphone died, and I had no idea. So I was trying to explain that what I'm going to do next is twin needle the hem. So I have pressed this up 4.5 inches with the iron, and then I'm going to use the throat plate of my machine, which is in metric. And so I'm going to line it up with the 30 mark on my machine, but it's about an inch deep that I'm going to hem this at. So it's going to have a nice deep hem. But I went into a very nice little tutorial on how to set up your machine to do a twin needle, all those kinds of things. And unfortunately, I do not have sound. So just trust me when I say that doing a twin needle is so much easier than you actually think it's going to be if you've never done it before. You put your needle in exactly the same way. It just happens to have two needles that come side by side, and you thread them both exactly the same. You have to make sure that they come from two different thread sources, but other than that, you just thread the needles, one in each, and then you stitch. And I do a straight stitch. I did lengthen my straight stitch on this one just to make sure that it would lay nice and flat and not get any tunneling where it pulls too tightly on the bottom. And yeah, it seemed to go really fine. So we're just going to stitch it. And I'm really hoping my sound doesn't drop out in any of these other clips. All right, the hem is sewn. So now I just have to cut off this excess and press it, so you'll be able to see the final reveal. I have a completely altered shirt, and I absolutely love how it came out. Now, is everything perfect? No. I wasn't expecting it to be completely perfect. Like, in here, things are a little janky, but honestly, is it any worse than any store-bought t-shirt that you've ever seen? Me either. I love the length of it. I like the fit that's going on up here so much better. If we look close, it's still not quite on my shoulder. It's a ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch past my shoulder. That's not the end of the world to me. Like, it still looks in the realm of what would have fit me if I went to a store and bought it. But now you don't have to see the scrunching where it says, "What are men compared to rocks and mountains?" And I think that this shirt is great. I love the detail here. I think it's very cute. And so I'm very excited to wear it actually with this skirt, as well as several other skirts that I have in my repertoire. And yeah, this was just kind of a quick project. This took me a couple of hours, but a lot of that was stopping to film things in between. And this was a lot of trial and error. And I find that most alterations, that's the case. It's you have to put it on, pin things, do a little seaming, try it on again, see how it fits. And that can be a bit of a hassle, but it's the difference between how this shirt looked before and how it looks now. And I think that it's worth the effort. I think that just a couple of hours of my time to get a shirt that I really enjoy, that's worth it to me. So hopefully this can help you look at t-shirts in your collection with a different light. If there's something that you wish was a little different, nip it in a little, give it a try, see how it looks. So that is all that I have for you today. If you enjoyed this, please do give me a thumbs up and like and subscribe if you want to stick around and see other things that I make in the future. I am always making something, so if you are interested in seeing what any of those are in the future, I would love to have you around. And until next time, I'm going to be having a fun afternoon wearing my nice new tailored shirt.